Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 4.8 magnitude earthquake rocks New York. 3 injured in another St. Anne car accident. And later in sports, GC Foster College and US-based university signs MOU. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mashade Masters and here are the details. And we begin with news on the international scene. A rare earthquake has hit New Jersey, rattling buildings in New York City and the surrounding areas. The United States Geological Survey said the magnitude 4.8 quake's epicenter was near Lebanon, New Jersey. A UN Security Council meeting on Gaza at its New York headquarters was temporarily paused due to the tremor. There are no reports of major damage. Buildings were shaken in the city's Brooklyn and the Bronx districts, rattling cupboards, doors, and fixtures.
We don't expect to be large enough to cause damage. It's just not that big, but it is strong enough, as people have been describing, to be strongly felt.
And you say 4.7 because we had heard it had been upgraded to 4.8, but the latest information you're getting, Susan, is it was a 4.7 magnitude?
Your information may be more up to date than mine is. That the estimates between 0.1, they're going to change a little bit as the data are looked at more closely.
Should folks out there, because it's been felt not only in New York, but in Connecticut, in New Jersey, including down here in Washington, D.C., in suburban Maryland, folks have felt it. Should people be worried right now about aftershocks?
Sure, that's a great question. And earthquakes in the east are felt farther than the same size earthquake in the west because of the nature of the Earth's crust is different in the two places. So it's typical that people have felt this one so widely. Yes, aftershocks are always possible. Magnitude 3-ish would be expected. Those would probably be felt more in the local area. There is always a small chance that an earthquake is going to be followed by something bigger within a few days, typically.
3 persons narrowly escaped death after the Toyota Probox motor car they were traveling in collided with a tour bus owned by Jamaica Tours Limited on the Runaway Bay Main Road in the vicinity of the Club Ambience Hotel. Reports are that about 8:30 this morning, the driver of the Probox, who was transporting 2 passengers to the Montego Bay Airport, overtook a line of traffic. On approaching a corner, he failed to keep left and slammed into the tour bus. TVJ News understands that the tour bus had just dropped off passengers and returning from the airport in Montego Bay. All 3 passengers in the Probox sustained serious injuries. They were pulled from the vehicle by members of the St. Anne Fire Department and transported by ambulance to the St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital. The accident caused a large pileup of traffic on the roadway, but was quickly cleared by the police. The driver of the tour bus was not injured. And the Jamaica Constabulary Force's JCF Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEB, has joined the National Road Safety Council in voicing concern over the number of road fatalities in recent times. Head of PSTEB, Assistant Commissioner of Police Gary McKenzie, was speaking on Power 106's Morning Agenda on Friday. Shamala Pullen reports.
Since the start of the year, Jamaica recorded 112 road fatalities. This when compared to 114 over the same period last year. Over the last few days, there have been multiple road crashes which resulted in deaths. The police are concerned.
If you take, for instance, the one that claimed 3 lives in St. Anne, this is a properly laid out road, properly marked. At that time of the evening, there was not a lot of traffic, yet someone finds the time to drive at a speed which is not required along that road, and then go to the left, the right of the road for some reason, and cause this major catastrophe. And we have seen a number of these crashes.
Head of the JCF's Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEB, Assistant Commissioner of Police Gary McKenzie says they're noticing a new trend with these crashes.
20 or 30 years ago, when we have some crashes, we would try to ascertain whether or not these vehicles are roadworthy. What we are seeing nowadays is that a lot of the vehicles that are involved in crashes are vehicles that are in pretty good condition. We are also seeing, though, that many of the crashes are involving persons and males between 18 to 39. And that is very concerning for us.
He says the economical impact is also worrying.
Apart from the crashes that cause deaths and serious injuries, what happens is that the country itself will not be will not be developing economically, because the persons who are supposed to do the work, they are dying. And we, in all of this, we have very young children who are losing their fathers and mothers in some instances.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
Concerns this afternoon about the number of persons who are still turning up for clinic appointments in the wee hours of the mornings. Speaking with TVJ News recently, Chief Executive Officer at the St. Anne's Bay Hospital, Dennis Morgan, says there are persons who have a clinic appointment for 10 a.m. but show up from as early as 3 a.m. He explained that the clinics are not opened until 8 a.m. However, he says the health team is partly to be blamed on how it communicates information to its clients.
Sure, how best we can address that, because that person chose to be here at 3, maybe because they're coming from far, maybe because they have to rely on transportation, that the only way that they can get that ride to the hospital is to leave their house at that time to get there. But nonetheless, it's something that we take all feedback as good, because we can only improve. Perhaps we might need to start clinic a bit earlier, or meet some of those persons that have clinic appointment where they are. So we are constantly looking for ways how to improve or enhance our engagement with our client. But what I found, what is most important is information sharing, how we communicate information to our clients.
The Minister of Agriculture, Floyd Green, has hit back at the Jamaica Agricultural Society, JAS, over assertions that enough is not being done to support the country's agriculture sector. Details in this report. President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Lenworth Fulton, has criticized the government over its handling of the sector. He has described as lousy the treatment of the sector by successive administrations compared with other sectors. But Agriculture Minister Floyd Green says Mr. Fulton has not been keeping abreast of the significant investment being made by the government in agriculture. He contends that the current administration has done more for agriculture than any previous government.
We have made the biggest capital investment in agriculture ever, especially in our irrigation network, investing over $10 billion to bring irrigation into parts of St. Elizabeth, South Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. We've invested over $1 billion in bodles. We've increased our production incentive program. In 2015, that program was at about $200 million to provide direct assistance to our farmers. It's now at $1 billion, $1.2 billion. So I think when you objectively look at it, this government has done more than any other government for agriculture. It's because this government genuinely prioritizes agriculture and is genuinely trying to transform some of the challenges that our farmers have been plagued with over the many decades that we've been at our agricultural enterprise.
The Agriculture Minister argues that while much has been done for the sector, the process of undoing years of neglect and achieving maximum production will take time. He is therefore cautioning skeptics against negative pronouncements that could hinder further growth in the sector.
We have to be very careful, practitioners in the agricultural space, that we don't become the trumpeters of gloom, speaking only about the problems and not highlighting the positives. Again, that provides a disincentive for you to get involved with agriculture. If they hear from somebody who is leading a major organization in agriculture, which has the power to help transform agriculture, that all you do is decry and complain, then they're going to shy away. So I think as we look to provide suggestions, and that is always welcome, and I do have a very good relationship with Mr. Fulton, I think we also have to ensure that whatever we say is fair, is reasonable, and is put in the proper context.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Education Minister Favour Williams says despite the many challenges, the education sector has seen significant growth. Speaking at the recent Jamaica Teachers Association's annual conference, Mrs. Williams lauded the progress of the ministry while addressing issues.
The Jamaica Teachers Association is celebrating its 60th anniversary under the theme Full Steam Ahead, Advancing Future and Digital Skills. Education Minister Favour Williams says the growth seen in the sector over the past 60 years coincides with decades of work done through various policies and programs.
Many of you here may remember, right? The scholarships, the exams we had to take to determine if we could go to high school. Today, every child born in Jamaica is guaranteed a space in a high school. The conversation is now, which high school, right?
She added that 60 years ago, about 40% of teachers were trained. Today, that number is at 100%. And the Education Minister shared details of what's in the pipeline for the sector.
The current transformation of education for national development program, as I said earlier, is underway. We've made efforts to be out in the field with our sensitization sessions of our chairmen, or teachers or administrators. And if you haven't seen us yet in your location, rest assured we will be there.
And responding to calls for consistent and stable internet connectivity, Mrs. Williams says work is ongoing.
I can assure you that the work which was started 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago during the pandemic is continuing and will continue for the years to come. But I know that in short order, we will be able to declare that all of our schools across Jamaica, all 1,009 of our primary and secondary schools, will have adequate broadband connectivity.
Carrie Simpson, TVJ News.
Motorists who traverse the newly rehabilitated St. Thomas leg of the Southern Coastal Highway are taking the authorities to task over misspelling and misinformation on signs erected by the National Works Agency, NWA. They point to signs like this one.
The sign for Petersfield is totally incorrect. It should be at the post office directly to the Market Road. And the sign Pomfret, P-O-M-F-R-E-T, is improperly spelled.
Now, the correct spelling is P-A-M-P-F-P-H-R-E-T. Now, there are also complaints about the speed limit signs among other issues.
One especially out there in Yallas Bay, where it points to Petersfield. And you have to pass the turnoff before you see the sign. And the sign should be before the turnoff. And also, not just the community sign, also the mileage sign, because you have some developed area, especially in the town center, where the mileage is 60 and it should be 30. So we would like these to adjust as soon as possible.
When contacted, NWA Communications Manager Stephen Shaw advised that he will speak with the project consultant on the issues raised. And it's now time for the Business Minute.
The Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, says market interest rates rose in 2023 with the exception of private money market rates. In its annual report, the central bank says the weighted average for a lending rate on bank loans to the private sector as at December 2023 was 12.30%. This reflects an increase of 56 basis points relative to December 2022. Interest rates on deposits also increased, reaching an average 2.47% as at December. That's an increase of 85 basis points compared to the previous year. The BOJ has been monitoring interest rates in the market, especially since it has increased the policy interest rate to 7% over the last 3 years. Disney Plus is cracking down on password sharing. The streaming platform will start to curb password sharing in June in some countries and more broadly in September. It's part of Disney's efforts to boost sign-ups and revenue as the streaming service continues to lose money. Disney points to the jump in sign-ups its rival Netflix has seen since its recent crackdown on password sharing. According to data from Antenna, the subscription media company, Netflix added 100,000 new accounts in the 2 days after its crackdown went into effect. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Shamela Pullen.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the United Nations Migration Agency is warning about the ever-worsening humanitarian crisis in Haiti as a siege imposed by heavily armed gangs on the capital Port-au-Prince stretched into a second month. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, said the surge in violence since February of this year has reached unprecedented levels, resulting in rampant food insecurity and multiple displacements. As a French-speaking Caribbean country grapples with this unparalleled crisis, IOM said families continue to struggle to secure even the most basic necessities as desperation exacerbates. And New York attorneys have called for more information on the $175 million bond posted by former President Donald Trump to block the seizure of his assets on a huge civil fraud judgment. State Attorney General Letitia James' office filed papers giving Trump's lawyers or the bond underwriter 10 days to justify the bond, essentially to show that the company can make good on it. That could mean disclosing more than the collateral Trump provided. A hearing is set for April 22. And those are the top regional and international stories. I'm Carrie-Ann Simpson.
Thanks, Carrie-Ann. We head to a quick break. When we come back, Jermaine Brown will have your midday sports report.